Hello and namaskar to one and all present here. This is Lalita Singh, your host for the session. On the behalf of Jabalpur Incubation Center and Jabalpur Smart City, I welcome you all in our 11-day investment Pathshala. Before proceeding, I would like to share that Jabalpur Incubation Center is organizing 11 days of online Pathshala for all our startups who are looking for funding and wants to know more about funding, how it happens, and what else they need for their funding rounds. So before we proceed, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Vatsal Gaur. Mr. Vatsal Gaur is an entrepreneur, private equity venture capitalist lawyer, and angel investor. So, not taking the time further, I would like to request Mr. Vatsal sir to take the stage and share his knowledge with our viewers. So, over to you, sir, and I would like to welcome you from all our behalf. So, welcome, sir, and stage to your.
Well, hi everyone. Good afternoon. As I've already been introduced, I won't take too much time in introducing myself. The theme of this topic today is startup valuation and equity dilution. And as the name suggests, we'll be covering both these topics in the next 10 to 15 minutes. To start with, startup valuations. What is a startup valuation is basically insight into the company's ability to use new capital to grow, meet customer and investor expectations, and hit the next timeline. Now, this is a definition we put on the deck, but broadly, a startup valuation is a way in which you determine what the current valuation of that company is, and with an intention of knowing what the future valuation of that company can be. The reason that it becomes important usually is from a fundraising perspective. Otherwise, a valuation of a startup is quite notional, because if you're not selling a business, there is really no valuation. But it's a notional valuation because when you're raising funds, with each series of funding, the valuation of the business changes. Usually, if it's doing well, the valuation of business goes up. Now, what are the factors that might affect startup valuation? What is the best way to value a startup? What are the methods of valuation? What is dilution of equity? These are some of the topics that we'll cover in the next few slides. In terms of what is a startup valuation, basically it's the worth of the company in the market based on certain circumstances. And the valuation becomes important, like I said, from a fundraise perspective. It can also become important when you're issuing ESOPs and you want to reward employees, because at that time their liquidity is linked to the value of the company, as in when they get a sale event on the ESOPs. Thirdly, if you're a solo founder and you're looking for a co-founder, in awarding equity to the business, valuation can be important. The next is, what is the importance? I think I covered some points. Just to add to it, one is that it aids in forecasting future sales. um, I wouldn't say this is true for all businesses. Maybe for businesses which are on direct to consumer or sale of goods, businesses which are around sale of goods, this can be important. Otherwise, this may not be relevant for a tech business. For a tech business, valuation is more important from a potential of the company and understanding that there could be a certain exit that the investors could make if they continue to back the company and believe in the company. Factors that might affect your valuation. So we've listed some. One is, of course, that how many customers you have. Second is what sort of reputation you have in the market. Third is, and also I think reputation of the founders more than the market. The third is prototyping, that in the sense that if you have an MVP, a minimum viable product, that really helps in increasing the valuation. If you have minimum viable product and consumers, it further increases your valuation. Whereas if you just have a proof of concept, it's possible that the valuation might not be as high. The next is, of course, revenues, which is on the top of the pyramid. If you have revenues which are stable and if you are profitable, then that becomes the highest peak. right? So revenue becomes just below profitability. We're looking at the sector which is called hotness of industry. We're looking at distribution channels. Um, we're looking at supply and demand. If generally, what is the supply for that kind of service or product that the company is building? So, in terms of valuation of startups, there are a few ways in which you can value a startup. One is the what I would call the post money valuation based on terminal value of an entity, and basically what happens is that you look at what is the terminal value and you divide the expected return on investment that you can make. That gives you the post money valuation. This is not really used in startups. The second is the Burkus method, which is you assign a range of values to the progress a startup makes in their attempts to get the start off the ground. Again, Burkus is not used very much. The third is the scorecard valuation method, which is the average pre-money valuation of other businesses in the same sector, and you value that and you use that as a base for your company. So if you have a company in agri-tech, you look at other deals that happened in agri-tech and you compare the two. This is slightly more used in these days. The next is the risk factor summation method. Again, this is not really used, but this is more for valuations where an actuary, like when you have insurance claims and you have actuaries who are valuing insurance claims, they use these kind of methods where you look at 12 elements, and you look at profitability, seed, startup, using the same. So again, this is similar to the scorecard valuation method where you look at other businesses in the same sector. But the one that I would talk to you about more is the discounted cash flow method. So generally, the tech companies that you're seeing in India, whether it's Cred, whether it's Ola, whether it's um, Apna, whether it's Open, any of the new startups that have become unicorns, they are all valued on discounted free cash flow, and that basically means there's a discount rate which is used to arrive at the future value of the company today, based on the future projections of revenue today. So money today is more valuable than money tomorrow. So there's a discounting rate attached. You multiply that with the cash flows that are predicted for the future. You multiply that by the discount rate, and then you get the discounted free cash flow method. And um, the higher the risk of the startup, the higher the discount rate. Okay. The next is dilution of equity. Now, what is dilution? Of course, dilution of equity means that as a promoter, you need to allow for investors to invest in your business. And generally, what happens is that at the valuation at which the investors are coming, you will dilute shares. So basically, if your company is worth 100 and you're diluting 10, that means 10 rupees is being invested. That means 10% of the capital is being diluted in favor of the investor. And this kind of dilution also happens when there are employee stock options or employee incentives that are being issued. So generally, if employee incentives are being issued, that also results in dilution of the equity. Usually it's put into a trust, and that ESOP trust is then administered by either the board or by a trustee. And the ESOP trust then is the entity which is responsible for transferring equity to the ultimate employees. Now, why do companies dilute shares? Well, the first reason is that you want to raise additional capital, so you need to dilute shares. The second is that you have to dilute if you have a transfer of shares to a third party, like a strategic sale, again, you have to dilute shares. The third can be that if there are some convertible instruments like CCPS or CCDs and they need to convert into equity, then you dilute again. And the fourth is that if there is any ESOP or any employee stock option, like I said, you need to dilute again. So these are some of the ways in which dilution happens. With that, I think I come to the end of my presentation. I hope this was helpful, and thank you to the team to invite me. If there are any questions, you might raise them. I don't know what the process is, but appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I just want to know when a startup comes with an idea and he wants to know about his idea's worth. So, what kind of valuation can be done that time?
So again, if there's no product and it's just an idea, there is zero value.
Yeah,
If there is a product, only then there's a value that can come. Ideally, you
okay.
need to have a prototype, which could be like a POC. Even if you don't have a
Yeah,
product, if you have a concept, that can help. And then you look at other businesses in the same space. You look at, okay, what deals were reported in this space, what are the other companies in this space, what was the value at which they invested, and through that you can arrive at a valuation, or the investor himself can give a valuation and make an offer.
okay.
Usually in your first
I
round, you should
Yes, sir.
look at diluting not more than 20 to 25% in your first round.
Okay. So, what factors a startup can evaluate how they can dilute their equity, and what are the percentage they should dilute?
So there's no hard and fast rule, but typically at the first seed level, you should not be looking to dilute more than 20 to 25% of your business,
Okay,
because by the time you enter into a Series A, you would otherwise be below 50%. So you should not be, at least till Series A, Series B, you should maintain more than 50% as a promoter.
ओके सो आई होप हमारे जितने भी व्यूअर्स आज हमारे साथ हैं उन्हें काफ़ी अच्छे तरीके से डाइल्यूशन के बारे में समझ में आया होगा कि हाउ दे कैन डाइल्यूट देयर इक्विटी while raising the funds. And I also want to thank Vatsal sir for coming on such a short notice. Thank you so much, sir, for coming with us. एंड आई होप कि हमारे जितने भी व्यूअर्स हैं उन्होंने इस सेशन को एंजॉय किया होगा एंड दे विल गॉट अ लॉट ऑफ लर्निंग फ्रॉम दिस सेशन. साथ ही मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को बताना चाहूंगी कि आफ्टर दिस सेशन वी आर गोइंग टू पोस्ट अ क्विज राउंड जहां पर आपको इस सेशन से जुड़े हुए काफी सारे कुछ क्वेश्चंस मिलेंगे. आई रिक्वेस्ट देम कि आप उनको भरें और we will announce the winners at the last of the session. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you to
Thank
all
you.
our viewers.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Bye bye.